course, the redback spider is Australia's most well-known and probably most feared. I mean, this animal puts about 650 people in the hospital each year. And of course, this one is the female, and of course, the female is very, very large, and this is actually a shout out to every psychotic woman out there. One of the reasons they have the Black Widow name is the female's habit of eating the males after they've mated. And of course the male is absolutely tiny, and of course getting friendly with the female can be quite a dangerous business because she is much bigger and much more powerful than he is, and quite often when he's getting friendly with her, she will bite, kill him, and even eat him, which is, to me, one of the most revolting things in the world. But the mastery of the redback spider is not in the female's habit of eating their own husbands. It's actually down to the web, because as you can probably see, here is their web, and it probably looks like a bit of an untidy mess of a web. Certainly in comparison to the beautiful dewdrop covered ones you'll find in your back garden, but actually that is a very cleverly designed way of catching flying insects. But the real mastery of the redback spider's web is down below. In a lot of places in Australia, like not just man-made constructions like outbuildings, bathrooms or sheds can be the perfect hunting grounds for a redback spider, because at the bottom of on the floor are many threads from the top of the web, and they're all held down with high tension, and it's almost like someone's taken an elastic rope and stuck it down with a big patch of glue. And of course, when an insect, because redback spiders don't just eat each other, they mainly feed on insects like ants, beetles, flies. So when an insect like an ant wanders past, it will snag one of the trap lines and be fired up into the air, so it's just dangling there. While they mostly ensnare ants and beetles, the webs of the redback are strong enough to catch large trapdoor spiders and even lizards. And of course, when the victims, when they're caught, I mean, the more they struggle, the worse it gets, because their struggle causes the line above to vibrate, which alerts the ever-ready female redback, who can detect the vibrations along the web through special sense organs inside her legs. And then she heads down to haul it up, bite it, and then paralyse it. And there's actually elements in the venom of a redback spider that turns its prey, that basically dissolves its prey's insides and turns it into a sort of meat soup, which she can then suck down. It is all pretty grotesque. Of course, that venom that's used to immobilise its prey unfortunately has the side effect of being extremely painful and toxic to humans. And as I mentioned, about 650 people are put in hospital each year by redback bites. And that's mainly down to when you put on your boots or clothing or gloves or something that has a redback spider inside. Quite often she'll get squished and bite in defence. About 60 or 70 years ago, redback spiders did kill humans, but these days a trip to the hospital and a dose of antivenom and you'd be right as rain. However, it would still hurt a lot, and I myself am arachnophobic, and this is one of the reasons why I will not live in Australia. I will visit there, but a little bit of advice: if you ever do visit Australia, always remember to check your boots, your gloves or your clothing. Here is the redback range, but also the funnel web spider range. Now, I'm going to show you all an animal that has been haunting the world's waterways since long before the dinosaurs. It is the saltwater crocodile, also known in Australia as the salty. And the saltwater crocodile is probably the world's largest crocodilian. It can grow to be well over 6 meters long, weigh more than a ton, and it has the strongest recorded bite force of any animal alive today. They live in lakes, rivers, estuaries, and even the sea, hence the name saltwater crocodile. And they are enormous, and of course, like all members of the crocodilian family, they have a very good sense of smell, sight, and hearing. But probably their best sense is running along the lips are special sensors that detect vibrations in the water, and that can be a panicky, struggling animal, or it could be an animal down at the waterside coming to drink. And incredibly, as well, these animals can stand the water for well over 2 hours. They do that by rationing the oxygen in their blood and slowing their heart rate down to just 3 beats a minute. Of course, saltwater crocs have been seen leaping out of the water. That may look a bit odd, but they've actually been observed jumping out of the water to catch bats as they're roosting above. Of course, these crocodiles will eat anything they can feed on. As I said, they feed on bats, but also fish, kangaroos, wallabies, mammals that come down to drink, and they can even take on something as big as a water buffalo. But in the sea, they can even hunt small sharks, and it is one of the very few animals in the world that will, on occasion, hunt, kill, and eat a human being. And if they do attack people, they very rarely leave survivors. And of course, the only time people are ever killed by saltwater crocs in Australia is usually if someone is drunk and they go out night swimming in crocodile territory. And of course, because nighttime is usually when they're most active. But also so if a crocodile starts to associate people with food, that can be one thing that turns them into a man-eater, because they start hanging around people and picking up scraps, and they will quite often turn to eating people. Of course, crocodiles quite often have a reputation for being cold, hard dinosaurs, mindless killing machines, but that is actually untrue, because when saltwater crocodiles, the females, when they've laid their eggs, which is usually in a nest made that looks like a big pile of compost, they will defend their offspring with their lives, and they will chase away any attacker that gets too close. And of course, I've seen saltwater crocodiles in action on many documentaries, and they are something I would not want to get attacked by. And there's probably a lot of you out there that are wondering why I haven't talked about Crocodile Dundee. I am going to say that one thing they did get accurate in that movie about crocodiles was that they can occasionally be man-eaters, but that is very, very rare. Of course, as I mentioned, they've been around on the planet since long before the dinosaurs, and that's all believed to be partly down to the fact that crocodiles can, when lean times come along, like if it's very, very hot, or in some places very, very cold, they can just lie in a hole, shut their bodies down and just go to sleep for an entire year. And it's believed that that nifty trick helped them outlast the dinosaurs and survive the ice ages. This is the Saltwater Crocodile range. As you can see, they're not just found in Australia, they're found in much of Southeast Asia. And now, the next animal I'm going to show you is probably the most venomous creature on the planet. It is the box jellyfish. Now, box jellyfish are said to be the most venomous creature on the planet. In fact, in Australia's Northern Territories, from October to April, box jellyfish make the seas unswimmable. In fact, the only place you can swim in the sea if it's box jellyfish season is in a big net like this. And that's for very good reason, because box jellyfish have been known to kill people faster than any other venomous creature, because their venom is strong enough to paralyze their prey like shrimp or fish in seconds, but they could kill a fully grown man in about 4 minutes. And of course, they also have well-developed nervous systems, eyesight, and are faster swimmers than any other jellyfish, so they can actively swim against ocean currents and they can actively pursue prey. At the business end are these tentacles, which can be up to 3 meters long, and each of them contains stinging cells which, if they make contact with anything organic, they will fire off and inject venom. And it's actually not anything to do with touch. It's all down to the chemicals in our skin that set off the stinging cells. And so whenever you're working with box jellyfish, you always have to wear a special kind of stinger suit, a special wetsuit called a stinger suit, which is not like human flesh or the skin of a fish, so if the tentacle touches against it, it won't fire off. And of course, the box jellyfish's venom on humans, it attacks the nervous system, skin cells, and the heart and the respiratory system. And if it doesn't kill you, it can cause you damage that can last for a very, very long time. And there's actually one species of box jellyfish that was only discovered in the 1960s. It's called the Irukandji jellyfish. And they're probably about no bigger than my thumbnail, but their tentacles, which can grow to 1 meter in length, can have an extremely powerful venom, and in extreme cases can increase blood pressure so badly it could cause a heart attack. And of course, to me, box jellyfish are probably the most frightening thing in Australian seas. And you might think that I'm just being a big wimp, but if you've seen the damage they do to humans, then you can see why I'm very afraid of them. In fact, another thing, the name jellyfish is actually a very inaccurate name. I mean, this animal has no backbone, no vertebrae. It is basically just one big blob of jelly, and it's actually believed that these could be some of the most ancient creatures on the planet. They could have been some of the first to evolve. And of course, if you ever do get to handle a box jellyfish, there is only one place, the part of the box jellyfish that's safe to touch, and it's this, the bell. But even so, I would not advise trying to pick up a box jellyfish, because it could either kill you in about 4 minutes or cause you damage that could last a long time. That is their range in Australian waters.